He left me on the kitchen floor. No explanations, no slammed doors, just the echo of his shoes retreating a rhythm I would hear in every silence for months after. I remember the cold tiles against my skin more than I remember his face. Funny, isn't it? The way pain stamps itself into places you didn't know could feel. My knees bruised not from the fall, but from the pleading. I wasn't even crying. Not yet. That would come later in the grocery store and traffic lights and soap suds. But in that moment, I was just airless. A breath suspended, as if my body hadn't caught up to the fact that he was gone. Gone. Like a whisper, stolen by wind, like he had never been there at all. And the worst part, I didn't chase him. Because some part of me knew if I got up, if I ran, if I called out his name one more time, I would lose the last shred of myself that still remembered life before him. And so, I stayed. On that floor. For minutes, maybe hours. Time collapsed inward. The milk he spilled when he shoved the counter burned in the air, mixing with the scent of lemon cleaner and betrayal. I used to think heartbreak came with a bang, a discovery, a confession, something cinematic. But mine came quietly, like the flicker of a dying bulb, like the last breath of something already sick for years. We were dying long before he left. I just hadn't buried us yet. He said I was too much, too emotional, too intense, too loud when I loved and too quiet when I hurt. He wanted softness without vulnerability, passion without opinion, a doll that cried when he needed comfort and shut up when he needed space. And I was a woman who once built shrines out of her heart and handed him every brick. I gave up opportunities, friendships, pieces of myself I didn't even know were optional. I let him become the weather in my life, and I just the sky trying to hold him. He never hit me, but he erased me, slowly, subtly. He interrupted me mid-sentence. He rolled his eyes when I talked about my dreams. He stopped touching me without explanation, and then blamed me for being distant. I started to apologize before speaking. I reread my text 4 times before sending. I stopped wearing red lipstick because he said it made me look too available. I didn't recognize myself in the mirror anymore. My eyes, they used to burn. Now they just waited for him to come home on time, waited for him to say, "I'm proud of you," waited for permission to feel. And then one day, he stopped coming home at all. I found the lipstick again when I was packing my things. Dusty, forgotten, a shade called fever. It felt like a ghost in my hand, a past life I left in a drawer too ashamed to open. I didn't cry when I left the apartment. I didn't scream. I didn't leave a note. I took the silence he taught me and returned it perfectly wrapped. He never called, not the next day, not the next week, because the truth is he wasn't heartless. He was a coward. He didn't want to face what he'd done, or maybe he just didn't think I mattered enough to miss. Either way, I bled in private. The first month was numbness, the second rage, the third a slow stitching. I got a job at a bookstore, the kind with wooden shelves and sleepy jazz in the background. I organized poetry in the back aisle and listened to women talk about their lovers with soft grief and laughter. I started writing again, not for him, not for healing, just because the words had nowhere else to go. And slowly, I began to remember myself, not the me I was with him, the me from before. The girl who danced barefoot in the kitchen at midnight, who took trains to nowhere with a notebook and a head full of music. She wasn't dead, just buried. It took 3 years, 3 years of rebuilding. Not a glow-up, not a revenge body, not some glossy Instagram comeback. It was ugly, slow, sacred. I paid off debts he left behind. I took therapy sessions I couldn't afford. I went on dates and walked out of most of them. I started saying no without explanation. I learned to sleep alone, not just in bed, but in life. And then one night it happened. I saw him in a bar downtown. He looked the same, a little thinner maybe. Tired, the kind of tired that no sleep can fix. He was with someone else. She laughed too hard, touched his arm too much. I recognized the signs. He saw me too. And I swear to God he froze. Just for a second, like his soul hit a wall. I didn't smile, I didn't wave, I didn't need to. Because I was the ghost he never thought would return. Not to haunt him, but to remind him you don't get to forget a woman like me. He looked away first. Of course he did. I walked past him like the memory of my own silence never existed. My heels struck the floor like war drums, not loud but certain. Each step a chapter he never got to read. Each breath a name he no longer had the right to say. I didn't need to confront him. My presence was confrontation enough. The woman I had become, she didn't shout. She didn't beg. She didn't need closure. She was the closure. And isn't that the cruelest kind of revenge, to become so whole that the man who broke you can't stand to look at what he created? Not because of guilt, but because of awe. He saw it. Not the lipstick, not the dress, not the carefully brushed hair. He saw the fire, the refusal. The history I carried in my shoulders like a crown made from all the nights I didn't text back. All the times I screamed into pillows instead of into phones. All the mornings I chose coffee over crying. Silence over second chances. He couldn't hold my gaze. Because when a man leaves a woman on the floor, he never expects she'll rise tall enough to look down at him. People say time heals, but they forget to say what time really is, an executioner and a resurrection. It killed the girl who waited for him to come back. It buried her deep beneath errands and exhaustion and learning how to unclench her jaw when she smiled. But in her place, something else grew, not a phoenix. That's too poetic. More like a wolf. Wounded, yes, but still wild, still dangerous. I didn't just move on. I moved inward. I stopped asking people what they thought I should do. I stopped measuring my worth in the way someone else loved me. And I started choosing every day, every hour. Choosing the friends who didn't flinch when I fell silent. Choosing the music that hurt in the best way. Choosing the work that didn't pay much but made me feel real. And eventually, I chose joy. Not the loud kind, not the Instagram kind. The quiet kind. The kind that comes when you realize your phone didn't ring all day and you didn't notice. When you cook dinner for one and it feels like a feast. When you sleep in the middle of the bed and stretch like you own the sky. That kind of joy, it's earned. Carved. Paid for in nights where your only company is the echo of I miss you that no longer comes. 3 years is a strange amount of time. Enough to forget details, not enough to forget the ache. Sometimes I still dream of him, not the fights, not the cold, but the softness in the beginning, the warmth in the lie. That's the cruel trick of memory. It keeps the scent of the fire long after the burn is gone. But I don't wake up missing him. I wake up grateful that I remember, because remembering means I survived. It means I didn't disappear, and I almost did. God, I almost did. You don't understand until you've been there, until your voice feels foreign in your own throat, until you catch yourself apologizing to strangers for just existing. That's what he did to me. But what I did to that version of myself, I buried her. With love, with grace, and I planted something new in her place. I think he knows now that I became the woman he pretended to want, but never believed I'd become without him. That's the thing about men like him. They want to be the reason you shine so they can claim the light. But when you shine without them, they go blind. He saw it in that bar, in the way I didn't flinch, in the way I didn't reach for anything, not his attention, not his validation, because I didn't need it. I was the storm and the shelter. I wasn't hoping he'd say sorry. I was hoping he'd say nothing. Because that's how you know you've won. Not when he begs, not when he cries, but when he sees you, really sees you, and knows she is no longer mine to hurt. Sometimes I wonder what he tells people about me now. Maybe he says I was too cold, too distant, that I changed. They always say that, don't they? When a woman stops bending when she starts walking instead of waiting, she's changed. But what they never understand is that the change wasn't sudden. It was slow. It was cellular. It happened every time I made myself smaller so he could feel big. Every time I stayed quiet so he could have the last word. Every time I swallowed the urge to cry, scream, run. The change was survival. And by the time he noticed, by the time he realized that the girl he left on the kitchen floor was gone, I had already become someone else, someone who didn't need to be chosen, someone who chose herself daily, defiantly, without apology. It's strange the way life finds symmetry, because months after that night at the bar, I passed by the old apartment, the one with the chipped paint and the balcony we never used. It was empty now, curtains drawn, a for-lease sign swinging in the wind like some cruel punctuation mark at the end of a story. And still my chest clenched. Grief is funny like that. It doesn't care how much you've healed. It will find you in old bricks and stairwells, in songs that sound like arguments, in smells that remind you of lies. But I didn't cry. I touched the rusted gate, smiled like I was closing a book, and whispered, "Thank you." Because I realized something in that moment. He didn't destroy me. He revealed me. He cracked me open, yes. But the woman who spilled out, she was a masterpiece in pieces, waiting to be assembled without his hands. He gave me the greatest gift a coward can give: absence. And in that absence, I found my voice. I found the version of me who laughs loudly in restaurants, who wears red lipstick just to buy groceries, who kisses with her eyes open and leaves before she's left. The version who knows now love that requires your silence is not love. Love that asks you to vanish is a slow death. They say healing isn't linear, and they're right. There are days I still flinch when someone raises their voice. Days I double-check a message before sending. Days I wake up wondering if I'm too much again. But now I correct myself. I remind the girl inside me that too much was never the problem, that her softness wasn't weakness, that her fire wasn't dangerous, that her need for love wasn't shameful. And I remind her that she made it, that she's real and radiant and free, not because someone gave her permission, but because she stopped asking for it. He doesn't know who I am now. He couldn't. He only knew the version of me that needed saving, not the woman who learned to swim in the wreckage. And that's okay. I don't need him to see me, because I see me. I see the war I fought behind closed doors, the nights I didn't pick up the phone, the mornings I stood in the mirror and chose to stay even when staying felt like standing in a burning house, with no doors. I see her. I honor her. And I carry her with me not as a scar, but as a signature, proof that I was broken and that I built myself anyway. I used to think the opposite of love was hate, but it's not. It's indifference. True healing is when his name passes through your mind and doesn't sting. When you hear a song you once sobbed to and hum along like it never belonged to him at all. When you walk through places he touched and they feel like yours again. And that's where I am now, not angry, not aching, just unbound, untethered from the weight of what if, free from the gravity of who I had to be for him to stay. He was a chapter, a long one, painful, poetic even. But I'm the book, and I've written so many pages since. Pages filled with women who left, with friends who held me when I couldn't hold myself, with laughter over wine, with morning light that didn't feel like punishment, with small wins that tasted like victory. He is a footnote in a story he'll never get to finish, because he never knew how to read me. Not really. There was a moment, maybe 6 months after I saw him again, when I stood in front of a mirror wearing that red lipstick. Fever, same shade, same tube, different woman. I tilted my chin and looked at myself, not like a project, not like something to fix, but like a painting, a creation. The curve of my jaw, the quiet in my eyes, the steadiness in my breath. I whispered, "You made it," and I meant it. I didn't need anyone to say it back. I didn't need applause or recognition, just that one truth echoing from the version of me who once curled up in the dark praying for someone to come home. She never got what she asked for, but she got me. And I was enough. Now, when I love, I do it differently. I don't give away the parts of me that took years to reclaim. I don't shrink. I don't mold. I love like a wildfire with boundaries fierce but never self-consuming. And if someone cannot hold that, they are free to go. Because I have no more rooms inside me for temporary tenants. No more thrones for unworthy kings. This heart, it's a fortress, and only those who bring peace may enter. Sometimes when the sky is gray and the coffee's bitter and the world feels too loud, I still miss the idea of him. Not him, the idea of being held, of being wanted, of being chosen. But then I remember I was never truly held. I was never really seen. He loved the image, not the woman, and now I love both, the image and the woman. I love the mess and the power, the doubts and the fire, the softness that no longer apologizes for existing. That is the kind of love no one can take away, because it was born not from what someone else gave me, but from what I refused to let die. He abandoned me when I had nothing, but I built everything in the aftermath. Not out of spite, but out of truth. He may never look me in the eye again. Not because I haunt him, but because he knows I am no longer his mirror. I am no longer his ghost. I am the woman who survived the silence, the one who rose from the floor without a hand to hold, and now I look in the mirror and see God in my own eyes, because I became her, the one he didn't believe would ever exist, the woman he could never touch again, the woman he couldn't look in the eye.